Welcome to VC's Off the Record. This is Real Talk with Real Investors. Your host, Gayla Jennings-O'Byrne, CEO of Wocstar Capital and co-founder of the Wocstar Fund, has spent 30 years in finance. And I'm here too. I'm Victoria Bird. I'm the Chief Content Officer and Creative Director of Wocstar Media. And I've spent 30 years in media. We champion female entrepreneurs, we champion diverse teams, and we're both passionate about stories that change old narratives. We're looking to inform you, inspire you, and help you get your bag and your dreams.
Hey, hi everyone, and welcome back to VC's Off the Record. I'm Gayla Jennings-O'Byrne, CEO of Wocstar Capital and the co-founder of Wocstar Fund. And I'm joined today with Victoria Burt, our Chief Content Officer and the visionary behind Wocstar Media. Today we're going to be talking about mentorship, but I want Victoria to tell us a little bit more about where we're going today on our talk.
Our guest today is really a really interesting person because, all the accolades and things that she's done. And one of the first things when she was emailing with me and writing about herself is she put on her list of important things that she likes to talk about was mentorship. And I know you talk about that and you make time for people to talk with them and guide them through the journey they're on. And I know for me personally, it has been something that's impacted my life too, and that I love to do. And it's so important. It's so important. So, that's sort of where we're going today. And we're going to be talking to her. And you want to talk a little bit about our guest?
Yeah. So Desiree Almodovar is with Alleycorp VC. She is just one of those genuine human beings, or as my grandmother would say, she's good people. She's definitely good people. And more than that, she has not only found a way to give back, but she's giving back by helping others through mentorship. And I mean, she's fabulous on all the things you're going to hear about on the VC side of things. But the human element of mentorship, I think, is the thing that really struck me about her. She is also an active member of New York City Economic Development Corp's initiative called Venture Access Alliance. This is a organization, a coalition of about 100 plus venture capital firms here in New York City that are committed to diversity and inclusion. And she has just been a real leader and star in that collaboration called Venture Access Alliance. And so I'm so excited in just all the different spaces she shows up, and that everyone who's listening and watching is going to get a chance to meet her. And I hope after the show you get to spend time with her because she's pretty cool.
Yeah. I think what I'm going to be really interested to find out is like how mentorship has changed, because it's changed so much from say 20 years ago to now, and especially with all this technology that we have. Like we're talking, we're not in our Times Square studio, right? We're on.
We're out and about.
We're out and about. We're whipping and bopping all over the country, so we could still do this because of technology. And now the mentorship relationship can be virtual, and you can have so much more moments that you can touch with people to connect with people, I should say.
Right.
Any moment that you thought of like that a mentorship really impacted for you?
Yeah, it started, when I would join companies and, you'd have that summer internship and you'd get paired with a mentor. And those were always lovely, but, it took a while to figure out a groove and some commonality. And then over the years, it's evolved into starting with like people who I was proactively wanting mentorship, and I had different reasons for what I wanted mentorship and questions and advice that I was looking for. But I found myself just yesterday in a conversation, and I mentioned someone, and as I was mentioning them, I said to everyone, I said, hey, he was my summer mentor, my first internship on Wall Street. And I started chuckling inside. I thought, wow, I love this. Like 30 years later, I am bringing up this person's name, and, there's going to be a way that our paths are going to cross again. And it just made me realize like mentorship and mentors can be in your life at different points in your life. Like there's not a moment in time. There's, this in and out that we can have, and that's okay.
Yeah, that is okay. And also, I think being the mentee, right? You say that, right? Like, I think you can be active about that. You can see somebody and go, I really want to get advice from them. You can actively reach out to somebody and be intentional about that, which is really sort of humbling when it happens when you're on the receiving end of it, but also when I meet somebody that I go, I want to know them. I want to learn from them, and if they are willing, most people are. I find if you are pure about it, you know. So I can't wait to hear you guys talk. I don't want to hold that moment up any longer. We're going to take a quick break though first, and we're going to pay some bills, and we'll be back. This episode of VC's Off the Record is brought to you by Wocstar Ghetto Film School Entrepreneurial Academy.
Hey, Wockstars, welcome back to VC's Off the Record. Joining us is Desiree Almodovar with Alleycorp VC. I'm so excited you're going to get to meet her, and I'm just so excited, Desiree, that you're here to tell us about your story. So welcome, and thank you for being here.
Yeah, so good to see you, Gayla. Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to do this with you.
Absolutely. You are just, like I said, good people. So I'm so glad we found the time and we're able to get you here on the broadcast. You have had an amazing career. And what I love about it is it's not formulaic. There's been some lefts and rights. And I would love if you could share a little bit about your career journey that got you to Alleycorp.
You know, we don't have all day, so I'll give you, like you said, it's definitely not been linear, so I could talk about it for 12 hours, but I'll give you the abbreviated version. I started my career early on in advertising in Chris Porter and Bogusky when they were the biggest ad agency. And I was really fortunate because I got my feet wet in working on brand strategy for companies such as Microsoft and Mini Cooper and Burger King and all these big brands. And, this was still a time that when we thought about advertising and customer acquisition, the conversation was often around making commercials and billboards and messaging was obviously huge, but this is before digital really took off and companies were heavily thinking about it. So our department of about 100 was, well, first of all, only about 3 women, which is kind of crazy to think about.
It's like Mad Men. It's like Mad Men vibes.
I know when people now think about advertising, they don't think of it as a male-dominated field anymore, but it really was still at this time. So, and the digital team was also 2 or 3 people. It was tiny. And over the years, companies started to realize that they really needed to focus more and more on digital. And, even every company just needed a website. And it was a boom that happened so quickly, especially with the iPhone taking off. And now all of a sudden we needed digital products to not only work on large screens, but small screens too. And how did you bridge that? And all these questions were being asked. And so I got more and more interested in that space and had the opportunity to work with MTV on their digital transformation. I think, too, it was a time when, because everybody was still trying to figure it out, you could take a huge risk on people. And I was able to work on something like that without even having tons of experience in it. I guess it
was all hands on deck.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so marketing was the launch pad.
Yeah.
Digital, this whole new digital realm was the stepping stone. What next?
Yes. So I started getting my feet wet in coding and UX and really on the production side of things, really understanding from the ground up how you built digital products. And over the years, I would end up becoming a head of product, leading large teams of engineers, UX designers, marketers, strategists to build products for Google and Microsoft and a whole bunch of large tech companies. A lot of my friends started graduating business school, and I was getting the call of how do you build a mobile app, because everyone thought that that's what building a company was. And that consulting would lead to me starting my own business and focus on working with early stage companies on product development and go-to-market strategy. By year 3, I scaled it to a 7-figure business, thought I was on top of the world. But by year 5-ish, I was looking around and realizing 2 things. One, that I was a bit at the mercy of the types of companies that came my way. And I didn't feel like I had as much of control around building the kinds of companies I wanted to see out there in the world. But most importantly, I looked around and didn't really see many founders that looked like me. Most of my founders were white men who I cherish. Many of them are very good friends of mine.
We love the guys.
Yes. But I thought, oh my gosh, this is happening because they're heavily the ones being funded. And if I really want to make an impact in the ecosystem and see more of the kinds of companies I want to see out there in the world, more equity in the kinds of people being funded, I need to get more on the VC side where capital is coming from. So I started doing a lot of investing myself, holding workshops, doing mentoring, because I was like, I'm not waiting for anybody to give me this opportunity. I'm just going to do it. And then through that work, I knew people that worked at Alleycorp just through the work I had been doing. And they called me one day and said, we want to start driving capital to founders, more underrepresented founders. And we'd love for you to come in and help us kind of figure out how to do this. So I, of course, was over the moon because it was exactly what I wanted to be doing and jumped on the opportunity. And here I am.
I love it. And thank you for being where you are, because we need you to help us. You said it best, is build the future and the world that we want to see and have the inclusivity that we all know we need. Thank you for sharing that journey. And what's lovely about that, I hope listeners and viewers heard, is that you went off to do something that you enjoyed. And from that, all these opportunities came. And it wasn't sort of just sitting around waiting for the right job title and job posting to show up. Like, you were doing the work, others saw it, and that led to other iterations of what you're doing now. Okay, so as a Venture Access Alliance member, one of the things that we have been wanting to do is help founders know a little bit more about us, the VC firms, because there's a lot of us, and it's not always easy to figure out which one could be the right investor, where there's fit and alignment. So we started this thing. I hope you will play along with us. We're calling it the reverse VC pitch. So can you tell us a little bit about Alleycorp in terms of what you guys invest in, what size checks you're writing, how to get in touch with you?
Absolutely. So we are VC founded by Kevin Ryan, who's thought to be the godfather of the New York tech ecosystem. He, what I also love about him and his philosophy is he loves hiring operators. So people that have really built things and can not only bring that into the investment lens, but also truly support our cohort of founders. We are very tech focused, and the four key parts of the firm are our healthcare fund, our deep tech and robotics arm, our economic infrastructure arm, and then the generalist part of the firm. But the underpinning of everything is really technologically innovative companies. We focus pretty early stage, usually between seed and Series A, and our check sizes range from between $1 million to $5 million or so.
Gotcha.
As far as getting in touch, you can email me at Desiree@alleycorp.com.
I love it. It's just that simple. That's so beautiful. And you know what I have to say? I have been so pleasantly surprised. All of our guests have been willing to give their own email addresses. It's really been beautiful to see. Like, and you guys would get put on the spot, and none of you guys are like, go to info at blah, blah, blah. Thank you. Thank you for being approachable.
Of course. I mean, that's part of all of this, right? That we're talking about how to make it accessible, how to build equity. And so I think these little things are important.
Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree. What's some do's and don'ts for our listeners and our viewers in terms of like how to get to know VCs and, be in your world? Any do's or don'ts or things you've seen and you're just like, please don't do that?
I'd say the don'ts are I'll start with that just because I think it's shorter than the do's. But the don'ts that I do see frequently that I don't think is as helpful is when you cold email somebody in the ecosystem and you just say, hey, I'd love to pick your brain. And like that phrase for a lot of people in VC comes off like you just want to take something from me, so you're essentially saying, hey, you've never heard of me before, I'm not telling you anything about myself, or all I'm saying is, can I take something from you, and I've never even met you before. So I would say that often is not going to get somebody to email you back. I would say the do's are there's so many things, but as far as if I'm talking to founders trying to meet more VCs, the engrossing yourself in the ecosystem in various ways. So the obvious things, right, like the events and things that you can go to that different VCs put on, but also figuring out how to, when you want to start a conversation, how you can, with someone, let's say that you've never met before and want to get in touch with, what is something that feels like would pique their interest around having that conversation with you? Something around maybe something you're building or can bring to the conversation or bring to the ecosystem. And you'll find, I think, a lot more success in people wanting to have that conversation with you. Of course, it goes without saying, too, just how important it is to build authentic relationships, too, with people. That, I think, goes such a long way. When you're trying to get in touch with people and it feels like you're just doing it to get something out of them, I keep on coming back to that. It's not going to go as far as you showing a genuine interest in that person and kind of a mutual respect as well.
Yeah. I completely understand what you're saying. We talk about, and I think my audience is going to get nauseated by how much I say it, but it's, I'm always saying, like, do the work, people. Like, you have to do the work. You have to do the homework. Raising capital is highly stressful. And you feel like you've got to like meet 100 people and hopefully 10 people, will invest. But even in that 100 people, if that's the number, you've got to do the work and really understand who they are, and do that screening and filtering, right? And we're in an age now where, like, everyone's probably been on a panel somewhere. There's probably a blog, a newsletter, some article, some YouTube video. Do the work and find out about that person. I found even when we were raising capital for Wocstar Fund, I made a lot of mistakes. And one of them was I would get in those rooms and I would just start talking about who we were, right? If it was at a cocktail party, reception or something. And then I got to the place of like, let me just listen. Let me just inquire about who they are and what they do at XYZ family office or, organization. And it just changed the dynamic of the conversation and the relationship and how I could go back and reach back out to them. And so you're right. All that you said about how to be authentic in these moments is going to carry so much further people's needs, connect with us, you and I, VCs like us.
I loved what you were saying too about really tailoring, like doing that research on who you're reaching out to and tailoring your questions and things to them, because it is not common. Even myself, I've written articles, I've been on podcasts. It's very rare that I get an email from someone that it feels like they've done the work to actually get to know me and what I'm about and ask me questions like, oh, I saw that you're so passionate about Wes Anderson films in this article that you wrote. Like if someone wrote me that, I'd be like, I'm absolutely taking this person's call. It's very uncommon that people do that work.
Yeah, absolutely. So everyone listening or watching, it's uncommon to do the homework. So if you do the homework, it's just going to help you stand out that much more, I think is what we're both saying. Let me switch gears a little bit, because one of the things that I saw in your heart and your head was the value put on mentorship and just making yourself accessible to others that are interested in this field. They're interested in the space, whether they are looking at it from a career, or whether they're looking at it as a founder or soon to be entrepreneur. Where did this value system in you of mentorship and come from? Where do you think it came from?
Oh, I love this question. So I wish I could tell you that it was because I just had these 5 great mentors in my life that made such a difference in my life. In actuality, I really didn't have that many mentors in my career. Yeah, so I didn't have many mentors. It is certainly part of the reason that I'm so passionate about mentoring others. Now, the reason I didn't have a lot of mentors, I think in part is my fault. I think that one, I wasn't very good at being vulnerable and saying that I needed that help. And that was only harmed me, right? Not being scared to be vulnerable. I think secondarily, I always thought that I needed a mentor or mentors that looked like me, which meant seeking women in senior level positions. And I've always really been in male dominated industries, from, I was saying, the early days in advertising to then technology and now VC, that I really didn't often see a lot of female leaders. And if there was one, she often was so busy proving herself because she would be the only one, that I would almost feel intimidated or scared to even ask her for that help. So the way that I think I approached it then through my career was just asking a lot of questions to various people and almost creating my own collage of an advisory network, if you will. And I would then, which by the way, as a side note, I think you should definitely do this regardless if you have mentors or not, but just saying kind of how I pieced it together in absence of a mentor. So I would look across different sectors. I would look at people in different roles. I would talk to people internationally, because I think it's through getting all of those different perspectives that a few things happen. One, you can see success within a certain sector has to fall a particular path because it's what you see the most often. And that can be really intimidating if it doesn't align with what your path has been or how you see yourself.
Okay.
And so being able to say, oh, wow, there's a lot of different ways to do this, and I can then piece together what will work for me is I think hugely, hugely valuable. And you can also take things from different places and apply them to different aspects of your life as well. So just because you want to pursue a VC job, for example, doesn't mean you necessarily have to only talk to people in VC either.
And I love that you're saying this because, so much of our world at Wocstar is about being female forward, female empowerment. But in doing so, it's actually a very inclusive, diverse world in which we live in, because when you have women at the table, guess what? Everybody gets a seat at the table. So our world is filled with, and represented by people from all walks of life. And so it would almost be a disservice if I and my team or our community only surrounded ourselves with people that look like us, have the same experience as us, thought like us, have the same value systems, the same political beliefs, right? We would be doing a disservice to ourselves and the work we're trying to do. So I'm really glad you said that.
I always say, even when I talk about the work, a lot of the work I'm doing at Alleycorp to build equity in the ecosystem, I often make the point that it isn't just because it's a nice thing to do, it's because this is how real innovation gets made. And we have a plethora of data to really underscore this.
Oh yeah, it's a competitive advantage. It's the way forward. So there's a lot of books and guides out there of how to be a mentor. But let me ask you it this way. What does a good mentee look like? Because you mentor a lot of people, so I know you know how to be a good mentor, but what makes for a good mentee so that they're having the best experience when they are being mentored by you?
I know I keep saying I love your questions, but it's just they're.
By the way, people, I did not give her the questions.
No, you really didn't, and I asked for that.
She is doing great on impromptu on the spot answering these questions.
I say that because there really are good mentees and not. In fact, I'm fortunate that I have so many incredible mentees that inspire me, potentially more than I inspire them. But I have also had a couple bad ones. I recently did hear, there are sometimes people that don't recognize how much you're doing for them and they don't express the appreciation. Perhaps that's as simple as by not writing an email or even vocalizing saying, oh, nobody helps me, when you've actually gone out of your way to help them. So certainly, if people are really trying to help you, no matter how small it is, you should thank them for that. And because everyone, especially in VC space, as you know, is insanely busy. And the fact that they're taking out their time to support you, even if it's in a small way, should be really meaningful. So anyways, that is the only thing I'll say on the being a bad mentee. But, being a good mentee, certainly coming to, let's say it's formalized, right, in such a way where you are meeting with that person bi-weekly or bi-monthly or quarterly, whatever it may be, being really prepared with what you're trying to get out of it is, and if you can send that to your mentor in advance so they really know what you're trying to work towards, is so important. Because there are, even if it's if you mentioned, I think that I mentor both founders and also people that are interested in breaking into working with startups and VC. The amount of information I can provide is so wide. So just kind of sitting there and saying, oh, like I said, oh, let me pick your brain. I would just love your advice on, and just keeping it broad. It's like, I don't even know where to begin. Like, do you want to talk about go-to-market strategy? Do you want to talk about how to build a team? Like, what is it that you're trying to work through? So yeah, I think that is really big. And then following up with what kind of strategies are working for you and what's not, what isn't. That really kind of bubbles up to the top of my mind as one of the most helpful ways to be a great mentee and get the most out of your mentor as well.
Yeah, I love all that you said. And I would add a couple others, like, don't expect miracles, right? Like, this is, it's an iterative process, right? So we're going to maybe make one introduction for you. We're going to sit down and go through X, Y, Z, but this is not like miracles being happening each day. I think for me, some pet peeves are when people cancel meetings at short notice.
Oh my God.
And then, right. Yeah, I know you go in there. I see it. Right.
When you're done, I have so much to say on that too.
Yeah. And then your point about asking for everything, like, I'm better if you're like, hey, I need to meet 2 people in this space. Do you know 2 people in that space?
Yes.
You can be like, all right, let me check. You just need 2 people. Let me see if I can find 2 people. As opposed to being like, hey, what can you tell me about AI and who should I meet in the AI universe? Like, what? Like, there's so many ways to go in that, right?
Exactly.
That's a total pet peeve. The other is that I've seen is that people don't follow up, and then people, I'm not saying they have to take all the advice, but like truly come into it being willing to be coachable and to change maybe how you're doing things or activate some of the things that get discussed in the calls and in the meetings. I think we make for better mentees. What are final thoughts that you would like to leave our listeners and viewers with in terms of how they can be the best entrepreneurs they can be?
Yeah, I think if I had to just try to sum it up, is really being resilient. Kevin often tells our founders that you hear it all the time, right? That founders, you pitch 100, 200 times and you get rejected the majority of those. And even though you know that, it's so painful when you're going through it. But just be reminded that even Kevin himself will talk about all the, he's had many failures as well for all his wins, or struggle to raise capital for all the capital he has raised. So I think that being resilient is just a really big one.
Yeah, I would agree with you on that. And you just made me think we should get Kevin on VCs Off the Record on a segment of this podcast. He was really accessible to me when I was starting Wocstar Fund. And I would love for people to get to know him because he truly walks the walk, and this mentorship and this accessibility and helping uplift others. He's that guy. He's truly that guy. So, all right, I'm going to come back to you and you're going to help me get him on the show.
Okay.
As busy as we are, I know he's just as busy, but we're going to make it happen. Thank you so much.
Thank you. This was so fun.
I woke up seeing this on my calendar, knowing this was going to be a highlight of my day, and it absolutely has been. So thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
This episode of VC's Off the Record is brought to you by Wocstar Ghetto Film School Entrepreneurial Academy. So that was amazing.
Oh my gosh, is she not amazing? Like,
yeah.
I hope you saw what I saw. Like, she is just good people. She's just got a big heart. And she's very humble. She mentors, I think every Friday she has like dedicated mentor hours. And she is really committed to just being as I call it, a resource and a blessing to others.
Yeah. And I love that she talked about being vulnerable. And that's what it takes to ask, right? That, you got to be, because she said, I didn't have that many because I was maybe not being vulnerable. And I thought, wow, that's really clear to know that, to ask for help or to say to somebody, hey, I think something about you is something that can help guide me. You have, and to ask for that.
Yeah. And that's real. I mean, I think culturally a lot of immigrant, underrepresented, minority communities, we're taught to give 110%, right? Never show up janky, right? Always show up in your best, haven't done your homework. And so the idea of raising our hand and saying, hey, I need some help, or can I get your advice on this, isn't natural to us. It's not our first instinct.
Because I don't know about you, but for me, it was like, that's showing weakness.
That's right. That's right.
Instead of strength, which is really, and I think you also have to be discerning. You have to ask the right people for the right things. I took notes. I also like when she said, don't just cold call or cold email to take, to just
pick someone's brain.
Yeah. Because I listen, I'm anybody's going to be just cold writing, but I will occasionally get those emails on LinkedIn. Just want to pick your brain. And I'm just like, I don't know you. And and when she said, like, if somebody were just to do that little extra thing and say, I like Wes Anderson, because when she's like Wes Anderson movies, I was like, that would charm me. That would charm if somebody took that little extra step.
Yeah. And listen, it's not an ego thing, right? Like, people are busy. We're, life is lifing us. We're out there, we're living and just, trying to live and be our best selves. And so when you want to take a little bit of someone's time, you have to come from an honest and authentic place, and one of mindfulness of, that maybe half hour that you're asking for is half hour that they could have had with their child who they haven't seen all week, or that's the half hour at soccer practice and you just haven't been to your kid's soccer practice in ages because of other commitments. And so we got to get away from the throwaways of like, I just want to pick your brain, to like, helping someone understand why they should give you that time. Because that time's not just sitting there willy-nilly. That time is going to be used in another way. And so part of it's like, help me just understand how and why this could be valuable.
Yeah. Any takeaways that you came away with?
I did. One is that maybe I've got to get back to, we have office hours for entrepreneurs and founders, but maybe I need to just set up some dedicated mentor hours. So it's just, to her point, it doesn't have to be people that are in the same industry or sector you're in. Maybe it's just being available and making space for, anyone in the way that she does. That was a takeaway for me. And then I loved how she reinvented herself and how that came about, and how that led to other opportunities. And so I hope, as people are listening and watching this, that if you're not truly enjoying, if there's not love in what you're doing, being open to exploring other things to bring back the around the work that you do. And maybe it means taking some courses and starting, at a junior level, even though you're senior in this role and in this skill set. Maybe there's going to be more joy in, going back a few levels and learning some new things. Listen, I am a venture capitalist, but I'm an entrepreneur at the same time, right? I am learning every day. I am effing up every other day, every other hour. But it's joyful. I love it. There's other things that I'm really good at and I could do with my eyes closed, but again, I could do them with my eyes closed and they put me to sleep. This every day I'm learning, I'm messing up, I'm taking risk, I'm meeting new people, I'm learning about new technologies. So do I feel like I go to work every day? No, I feel like I get to get up and champion and advocate and invest in some cool stuff, and including the future I want to see.
And be the change, right?
Be the change. Be the change. There we go. I think with that, that's our sign off for today. Be the change.
Be the change.
All righty, Wockstars. Thank you for joining us for another episode of VCs Off the Record. Thank you to Desiree Almodovar at Alleycorp VC, and also a member of VAA, the Venture Access Alliance. Thank you for being here for all that. Have a great week. Stay fabulous.
Fabulous.
Thanks for hanging with us. This podcast was produced by Wocstar Media in New York City at the Podstream Studios. Be sure to follow VCs Off the Record on Apple and Spotify. We're also on Sheconomy, the State of Women podcast platform. Please consider giving us a good review or share it with someone. Let us know what you want us to talk about on our socials and our YouTube channel. You can find us at wockstar.com for all the information.